Happy Halloween, everyone. Life has been crazy, but it is Halloween, and I wanted to at least commemorate it in some way. So I thought it would be fun to take you on a little journey through the costumes I have made over the years. Hello! Welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan, and I like to make things. And I'm coming to you in my Halloween costume this year, which I actually made in 2017, and it's still going strong. So we are being Rapunzel from Tangled after she cuts her hair off this year as well. I might as well start you with this particular costume. So this costume was about a year in the planning. I did end up thrifting almost everything that I used to make this, including my chopped off hair. This was one of the things that was a big inspiration in the beginning because I found this. It was this really long piece of wool. I forget what it's called, but it's the wool that they use on dream catchers like this. And it was just an entire package of it at the thrift store, and it's one big long piece of roving. So I just crochet chained this by hand, like pulling through to make this braid. And I carried this around and I said that this is my hair that I chopped off, and I sewed the rest of the costume. I started this off with this shirt pattern. This was the gunmetal shirt by Lolita Patterns. I don't think that she even makes patterns anymore. I managed to get the pattern secondhand that year, and I decided to use it as a base for being Rapunzel. All of these materials were thrifted. This pink stuff is what's lining everything. It is a pink polyester terrible knit that under no other circumstances would I wear. This purple is a mesh actually that goes on top, so that's why it's all lined in the pink poly knit. And by poly knit, I mean we're talking 70s stuff. This is like spongy. I would never wear this under any other circumstances but a costume. I also thrifted this pink ribbon, this lace trim that's around the edges. Even the elastic trim at the edge here was repurposed from old clothes. I think I did purchase this cord, and I had to buy the D-rings here. The pink fabric was also thrifted. It's like a bathing suit knit that I got in a thrift store who knows when. And then the skirt, it's a lavender linen look polyester. Again, nothing I would wear under any other circumstances but a costume. But for this purpose, it worked out great. And I actually looked on my blog because I did a very detailed blog post back in 2017 when I made this. And I only spent $17 on everything for this costume. And that includes the pattern and the things I had to buy new. So I'm pretty proud of that. 2017 was a skinflint year. I was really working the thrifted materials, and it worked out perfectly in this circumstance. And because I like to knit and crochet, I also crocheted myself a Pascal, and I carried him around with my hair. I've been wearing a store-bought pair of butterfly wings for the last like 3 years just because it's easy to throw on, and I've mostly been focusing on my kids' Halloween costumes. This costume was pre-children, which you will see as a trend, but the butterfly wings have worked great, and they're really fun and very impactful. Everyone always likes them at parties. But with all the craziness in the last year, I did not get to make myself a costume again. And so I thought, well, what do I have that's fit still? Rapunzel, we're throwing that on. So we wore this to a party, and my girls had a lot of fun. They thought it was great. One of my girls this year is going as Cinderella, so she was thrilled that I was a princess too. So I guess it's just a testament to a good quality costume. Making it yourself, you can control how well made it is. Everybody knows how the store-bought costumes nowadays, they just fall apart. They barely even last through Halloween. I've been buying my kids' costumes the last couple of years just because they wanted to be something that there was a costume available for. And I can't tell you how many repairs I've had to do after them wearing it like one time. My kids like to wear their costumes and play dress up still. And so I am constantly repairing costumes. My daughter has worn the store-bought Cinderella dress 2 times this last weekend, and the back of the shoulders is already shredded. I'm gonna have to try to like iron some interfacing back there just so she can wear it on Halloween proper. So making a costume yourself, this is fully washable. I actually had to wash it after I wore it on Saturday night. So it's just kind of nice to know that going the extra mile, I guess. I didn't do anything outlandish as far as finishing techniques. And this is all knit material, so I didn't even have to serge it. This was before I owned a serger, and it's held up great. So keep that in mind. Anything you make yourself is going to last you so much longer. And since this is a knit, it doesn't matter that I have gone up or down in size, it still fits. And interestingly, the skirt still fit too. So love that I had this costume in my closet and I could just throw it on and have something cute and looked like I put a lot of effort into it, because I did. It was just a long time ago. So thinking about this costume made me start thinking about other costumes that I have made. And before I had children, I used to make costumes all the time. And there was a particular stretch that I was really in my stride with sewing, and I made quite a few costumes. They weren't all for Halloween. Some of them were Halloween, some of them were for some singing events that I did. So I figured I'd take you through a few of those and throw in some from a really long time ago as well. Who knows, maybe this can give others inspiration, because some of these were literally just thrown together the night before and I still won costume contests. So keep that in mind. You can have some creativity and still come up with a really good costume pretty quickly. Way back in 2005, I went as a tornado. So to do this, I took cotton batting, sheeted cotton batting, and I made it like a poncho. I painted it with acrylic paint, colors of brown and gray, so it looked like a dust cloud. And then I wore just black underneath, and I took yarn with little matchbox cars and tiny trees and things like that, hooked them to the yarn, safety pinned that through my poncho to my clothes, and then when anyone asked me what I was, I would put my hands up and spin around in a circle, and all those yarn things would shoot out and rotate around me, and I was a tornado. And I won the contest at the place that I was at that year. It was a lot of fun. The next year, I obviously had a reputation to uphold, so I had to make something else cool, and I decided to be a paper doll. This is another costume that I thought of like the night before and threw it together, stayed up until like 2 or 3 in the morning painting it. I just took a large cardboard box and made a plaid jumper paper doll cutout, painted that, and then I wore just a white t-shirt and a slip underneath, painted my face, gave myself pigtails, and that was my costume, and I won the competition again. In 2010, I threw together with thrifted materials Rosie the Riveter. And then in 2012, that is when I learned how to knit and crochet. And so this is where we start getting actual costumes like you would expect for me to have in some elements, at least today. The first thing I ever knitted that was costumey is I made a hat to be Finn from Adventure Time. And I do still have this hat. This is just made out of like Premiere Everyday Soft Worsted acrylic. This was the first time I ever Kitchener stitched anything. I remember that. I was super nervous. I had to look that up, how to do it. This whole top is Kitchener stitched. And it worked out great. I did this, and then I slightly sewed a backpack, and my dog was Jake, and I had a sword. I had like a katana in my backpack. The rest of it was just a blue t-shirt and some jean shorts, and that was a lot of fun. Adventure Time was very big at the time, if you were around in 2012. So a lot of people knew who I was, especially kids. They really enjoyed my costume. So that one was a lot of fun, and I have always kept this hat just in case. You never know, I need to be Finn again. And then by the next year, I weirdly won a party from Cartoon Network. It was where you could submit to win all the materials to host a party, including, gosh, I got comic books and a DVD of the show and all this stuff. And it was for the release of Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake. And so I made myself a Fiona hat, and I wore this for the party. We all wore my Finn hat, my Fiona hat, and I made Jake as well, and he is still around. And we all had a lot of fun taking pictures. And then, of course, I was Fiona for Halloween, so I got myself a blonde wig, painted myself a pink sword, and we were good because I already had all the stuff from being Finn. Next, we jump to 2015, when I decided I wanted to be Joy from Inside Out. I absolutely loved Inside Out. It's a great movie. I thought it explained brain science for children pretty well, honestly. I just used a basic dress pattern that I had had success with before. I bought some lime green broadcloth and I sewed myself a basic lime green dress. I do remember I had a little bit of tweaking I had to do because it ended up being too tight in the waist, and so I had to add these knit gusset pieces, and that worked out just fine. So I sewed myself a basic green dress, and then I had to put the flowers on it like Joy's dress. And so I decided to do that with permanent markers. And the night of, it looked great. But having worn it several nights in a row, I did have to wash it. And unfortunately, it did, become a little more ghosty. It's not as vibrant as it was, but I do still have this dress. And it's still fun. Like, I could still throw this on and be Joy. I do have the blue wig still. I also even have my lime green shoes because those were a fun addition. But those I happen to have in my wardrobe already. And I crocheted myself Bing Bong because at that point I had established that I have to have a crocheted pal. So he was interesting to make. This was a free pattern. So was the Pascal pattern actually online. Since they're copyrighted, people can't sell them. So that kind of works in your favor if you want to make one. But I did brush him with a dog brush. So he's fuzzy like he's supposed to be. This was a decent project for me at the time. I mean, I had made, gosh, I don't know how many crocheted animals. That was absolutely my thing for quite a while. But I was pretty proud of how Bing Bong turned out. And this whole costume in general, I was Joy and my ex-husband was Anger. And if you knew us both, that was quite perfect. But we had a lot of fun. And that's another quality costume that I still have to this day that I could technically throw on if I needed a quick costume. So now we have reached 2016 and 17, which was my year of costumes. It started when my singing group needed me to make myself my own Regency dress. We sing at Christmas time or we used to do it in Disney hotels, but we sing like 17th, 18th century classic English style Christmas carols. And so our director had us wear satin jewel-toned Regency dresses, and we needed one for me. So I had to remake a dress that he already had for someone else. I had to put a longer skirt on it, completely remake the bodice so that it fit me. And so that one ended up being my first foray into making costumes for these events. And that is a costume that we still have today and I wear every Christmas. It has worked out really great. Next up was in April, we did a magical feast. So we all had to have a medieval style costume of some kind. And of course I was sewing all kinds of clothes for myself. And so I decided to make my own. This was another completely secondhand project. I thrifted actual silk, like on a roll bolt at a thrift store for just a steal of a deal. And I had enough to actually make a pretty decent size skirt. It is the same skirt pattern that I used for this Rapunzel one later in the year. So these were obviously not going for historical accuracy. I was not into historical costuming at all at the time, but I used silk for this trim I purchased to actually do an upholstery project that never materialized. And then I was given this poly chiffon that has like a floral design printed on it, and I use those for bell sleeves. There is sadly a stain on this, so I do need to try to clean it in case we do anything medieval in the future. And then this was actually another that was given to me, and it was like an upholstery sample square, and it was just a strip so that you could pick fabrics to match your materials or whatever. And I thought that it looked really good with this coloring, so I made it as a sash. And then this is my basic green silk skirt here. What was meant to be the pièce de résistance but ended up not being quite what I wanted was this hat. Now, this was one that really had a story to it because I was trying for a Renaissance gabled hood, which is supposed to nip in at your jawline and kind of follow that angle. If you've ever seen Anne of the Thousand Days, which is a movie from the 60s with Richard Burton and Genevieve Bujold, and I was obsessed with that in high school, and the costumes are absolutely amazing. And so when I knew it was going to be relatively in this kind of time period, I decided to try to make a gabled hood. And even when I'm wearing this thing, it's really bizarre to wear this. This is a cardboard box underneath. and I tried to shape it, and originally it did come much closer to my head, like this. That's how I cut it out and designed it. But I had to sing while wearing this, and if you've ever tried to sing and hear other people's pitches while you have a cardboard box that's literally blocking your ears from everything, it doesn't work very well. And so I kept having to angle it out, and it's still very echoey and weird sounding, even my own voice, when I wear this thing. So it ended up working, but it just became known as the birdhouse hat. So it didn't come across as I wanted it to, but I still wore it. It has a train in the back. This thing took me almost as long as making the rest of the costume. It is completely hand stitched. I mean, how else do you sew onto a box? And I just used pieces of the silk so that it echoes in the outfit. I lined it with cotton. I had to sew these combs in there. All of this is hand stitched. And I know now I look at this and I'm like, that's really not that much work. But at the time, this was the most hand sewing I had ever put into any project ever, especially for something that came out kind of disappointing. But what are you going to do? I still wore it. It was a lot of fun. It gave the aesthetic that I needed for the event. And I, once again, still have this quality made costume that I can grab from in my closet. And then rounding off the year of making costumes, in November of 2017, I was in a 60s themed singing show. And so my director had told us to get something 60s clothes wise. And it was supposed to be something more everyday wear, not something costumey 60s. And I was so proud of what I made. So I made this dress entirely with period accurate pattern and fabric. And I could not have been happier with how this came out. I thrifted this fabric that is printed in the selvage 1963, and it's a cotton material. It's very much burnt orange and brown and mustard yellow with this kind of striking blue in the background. I'll try to put a color accurate photo over here so you can see it. But I had thrifted a pattern for a shift dress from the mid 60s, and I had enough fabric. I even had a period accurate zipper in the correct color. This zipper is Aztec gold and it's from thrifting. So I just checked my blog post about it, which I will link the blog posts for all of these costumes if you want more of the particulars about what patterns I used and all that kind of thing. This cost me $4.35 to make because of thrifting. So I still have this dress. I could still wear this if I wanted to. It is just a really fun one. I always thought that I'd be very, Zooey Deschanel style cool and wear this in my daily life, but I never have. I technically could if I really wanted to, though. So once I adopted my kids, I did not have as much time to make things as I would like, as you can probably imagine. I got divorced and adopted kids within a couple of days of each other. So it's been a crazy little time. And I still wanted to make their Halloween dreams come true. And so when they were 3, I knew they were obsessed with foxes and otters. And so I knew I had to make them a fox and an otter, is what they had asked for months before Halloween. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to sew them something. I ended up buying shirts and I had to make them leggings. I had to dye the material because I couldn't find material in the right colors anywhere. And then I just used fleece. I used a random hood pattern piece off of this jumpsuit style costume pattern from Simplicity from the 80s. And I made them fox and otter hats and tails. And I tried to find them in their room. They still have these and they still wear them a lot, actually. They wear them to bed sometimes. They wear them to dress up. So they are just a hood. And actually, I made them where they would fit me. So it's a bit big on them, but that means that they can still wear it. Now they are 7 and they still love wearing these. So that was a very good decision on my part because it made all my work last so much longer. But so I had to sew the hat together, and then I kind of freestyle patterned the facial features. These are just satin stitch applique on there. And that's what this embroidered mouth is. I just put it to a really tight satin stitch and drew a smile on there and followed it along. And I mean, these things have been washed, I can't tell you how many times, and they still have held up great. The fox looks really great still. I did find the fox's tail. This was off of a Simplicity pattern, and I made just the tail. It's a pattern I think that's still available actually, but it didn't have an otter, so, and the hood was like part of the jumpsuit. So anyway, this worked out so great, and they were just the most adorable, and they were so excited. I remember feeling just like big time win because they were just so elated that they got to be a fox and an otter, and they still love foxes and otters, and they still wear them today. And then since we're talking costumes, the most recent costume items that I made are actually historical costume. I really wanted to make myself a Regency dress, and I wanted to do the whole thing. I wanted to do stays and chemise and a petticoat and all of that. I started it in summer of 2023 with making these stays. So this was meant to be my mock-up, and it ended up being so close that I decided to make it a wearable mock-up, and it's fully reversible, which I still think is pretty stinking cool. So I made these with the Lantern Moon Regency stays, the long stays pattern, and I know this toile makes it hard to see the details, so we can flip it to the inside. So the outside toile fabric is like a decorator duck cotton kind of weight, and then this is just a blue cotton broadcloth, both of which were thrifted. They didn't, it was either given to me or thrifted, so it didn't matter that much if it didn't work out. I did learn that I should not have used my wax transfer paper to mark the cording lines, because you can actually still see it. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but there's a faint yellow line where all of these stitching lines are. But I am super proud of these still. You can see all the cording lines here. I did a decorative stitch at this point just because it looked pretty. I did hand flossing around the gusset edges. This was actually for stability because I accidentally cut the fabric too close here and it was fraying at the edges. So that was kind of just to cover that up. But these, I'm still kind of in awe that I actually made these, and they fit me. They're well made. I could literally throw this on anytime, even though I have gained weight, which at the time, interestingly, I thought that it was going to fit me. I had done the mock-up and everything, and these ended up being a little too big. Like, they completely laced up in the back. There was no tightening at all. Now that I've gained a little weight, these would still fit me, and I could actually get more of the cinched effect. You don't get that as much with Regency, but still it would work since it's laced up in the back. And then I did also make a chemise, which I didn't bring that in here. It's just a linen nightie, essentially. But I did make all of my undergarments, so I'm ready. I even cut out the next section. I was going to make a cotton petticoat. I cut out a white cotton petticoat with another Lantern Moon pattern. It's still in pieces in a bag somewhere. I can't remember why I set that project aside. I think I started making seasonal clothes or something, and then I just never went back to it. It is literally, I thought, oh, there it is. It's literally folded up on my dresser over there, ready to go. But I have not been able to sew. Life has just been crazy for the last couple of years, but I'm still super proud of how these turned out. I enjoyed this project. It was very involved, but I am surprised at how much I liked doing it. It was a nice mental challenge. So if you are interested in historical sewing, I totally recommend giving it a try. And if you're interested in stays in general, Regency, I've heard from others, is the easiest one to start with. So I highly recommend it if you're at all interested in historical costumes. So that's just a light foray into the costumes that I've made. I hope that this was enjoyable to somebody out there. I know that it's kind of close to Halloween, so you can't exactly like whip some of these up yourself if you wanted to, but maybe in following years, somebody will find this and get a little inspiration off of some of the random things that I have made over the years. So that is all that I have for you today. I hope that you are enjoying the spooky season. I hope that you've had awesome costume luck this year. If you did make yourself a costume, whether it was sewn or just thrown together from something, please let me know down in the comments. I absolutely love costume sewing. That's actually why I learned to sew as a kid. I always made my own costumes. My mom made my costumes, and then I started making my costumes, and I just kept with it. That is why, to this day, I'm able to sew. So if you enjoyed this, please do give me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you want to stick around and see other things that I make in the future. I have lots of projects that are in the works. This was just sort of a quick little foray into Halloween's past, but I do have new projects coming in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in seeing that, then subscribe, and then you'll be notified as soon as I post about those. So until next time, happy Halloween and happy costume making.